Alright guys, I have three of the best cameras in smartphones here with me right now. I've got a Nexus 5X, an Apple iPhone 6S, and a Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. And we're going to take two shots with each of these phones. We're going to take one shot outdoors here with the outdoor available light, good lighting I would call it, and one shot indoors in bad lighting I would call it. The phones are all going to be set to auto, they're all going to be set to no HDR, so standard out of the box settings. I'm going to take my time, press on the screen, focus the camera, and then I'm going to show you on the screen inside on the computer which of these devices actually has the higher quality images. And I think a lot of people are expecting the S7 to kind of rule the show here, and that's what Samsung likes to tell everybody, but we might see some different results here. This is going to be an honest look here at these three cameras, so stay tuned. Here we have our three images. These are the outdoor image tests. We've got the Galaxy S7 Edge here on the left, and we have the iPhone 6S in the middle and the Nexus on the right. And if we take a look at sort of the overall exposure of these images, that's what we'll start off with first here, and kind of judge them based on their color and their sort of exposure value, so the lights and the darks. We'll look at kind of the overall, like I said, the overall picture. The iPhone, I would say the iPhone and the Galaxy probably have the nicest colors and the nicest exposure. The Nexus is a little bit dark compared to these other two. And I would say that color-wise, the Nexus looks a little bit cooler as well. When I say cooler, I mean a cooler color temperature as compared to the other two. I think the Galaxy S7 probably has the nicest color accuracy as well. Now, when I took these photos, I clicked right here on the label of the hammer. So I actually pressed on the screen right there. And the Nexus did a great job actually with its focusing and with its metering right there when I pressed in the center as compared to the iPhone and the Galaxy S7. So the Nexus kind of did a little bit of a spot meter action, or just got the metering a little bit too dark. Whereas the other two probably metered for the whole scene, which, and truth be told, that's a little more accurate unless you have spot metering on, in which case the Nexus has a little bit more accuracy if you wanted that label kind of with the right exposure. So if we now go ahead and zoom in on the label itself and kind of look at the details, so we'll go up here to go to actual size, we'll go actual size, and we'll go actual size. You can see that the Nexus is really, really sharp. I mean, that is very, very good. iPhone's a little bit washed out, a little bit kind of bright looking. Galaxy looks good, but not as sharp as the Nexus. If we zoom down here, you can see it a little bit more, especially kind of in the wood grain and some of the Galaxy. You can really see really good detail here in the wood on the Nexus 5X, whereas it's kind of muddled and blotchy here. You can see some JPEG artifacts going on the Galaxy S7 Edge. Also, if you look at this blue icon here compared to the blue icon here, you can see it's overall just a sharper image there on the Nexus 5X versus the Galaxy S7. iPhone's kind of a mess. It's a decent image, but it doesn't really compare to the other two when you look at them side by side. So overall, I would say the Galaxy S7 probably has the better image out of all three of them. But I would definitely say the Nexus 5X gets points for its spot metering and as well as its sharpness here in the fine details of the test there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to close these. We're going to open up the indoor tests that I had. So I had three indoor tests as well. We had a Nexus indoor test, we had a Galaxy indoor test, and we had an iPhone indoor test. And we'll move these along here. So I have an available light shot here of all three of these guys, and we'll move them into the same place they were in so we don't get confused. So Galaxy, iPhone, and Nexus, and we'll kind of take a look at where I focused here. And again, we'll start with the overall image. I focused right here on the tooth of this bear skull, and so I clicked there and snapped the photo. And if we just look at, let's just say the iPhone and the Nexus to start off with, Nexus is a little bit cooler again, so it's a little bit cooler color temperature. The iPhone's a little bit warmer color temperature. These are really warm incandescent bulbs here, so the iPhone probably got it a little bit more accurate, I would say, but the Nexus isn't too far off either. If we look at sort of the highlights back here, you can see it's a little bit blown out on the Nexus, whereas the iPhone's a little bit more toned down back here. So the iPhone did, again, a little bit better of a job on exposing maybe the whole image, whereas the Nexus did sort of more of a spot image, and so it's a little bit brighter in here. And now if we compare that to the Galaxy, which is supposed to have a great indoor camera, again, really, really solid exposure. If we look at the iPhone had the better overall exposure, so we'll go over here, look at these two side by side. Very, very good. I would say the iPhone probably did a little bit better job exposing the outdoor. The iPhone has the background image is a little bit more in focus because it's a narrower aperture on the iPhone as well, so it's a little bit nicer to have that blurry background here on the Galaxy S7. That adds some to the image. It's again a wider aperture, so things become out of focus in the background. But sharpness looks good on the tooth. Sharpness looks good there on that tooth. We'll zoom in here again to look at the two of these. So we'll zoom in now on the Nexus and on the iPhone. We'll go there and we'll go there, and again I focused, the point of focus was right here on this tooth, and I'll click here and I'll move over, and again you can see that the iPhone, again, details and resolution not as good as the Nexus phone. Here you can see very, very clearly that especially in these little dots and dimples here, that the Nexus did a much, much better job on resolving those fine details. And if we look at sort of the out of focus parts of it here, don't really pay attention to the sharpness in the out of focus areas, because that, again, the iPhone's using a narrower aperture, so we'll go up a little bit higher and kind of look at the noise levels. Very, very similar across images there. We'll go down in this corner now and look at the noise. And pretty similar there too. Nexus is a little bit more, it's hard to tell if it's muddled or if it's just out of focus because of the aperture. That to me looks out of focus, because if you look here in the really extreme out of focus areas, it doesn't get substantially JPEG artifact. So I would say that that's a very close tie between the two in terms of its out of focus noise and the available light, but the Nexus did do better than the iPhone there. And so now we'll compare that again to this guy. So we'll go view, we'll go actual size. We'll start off at the tooth here, since that's what we're more interested in. Compare that to the Nexus, since the Nexus did better than the other ones. And we'll scroll over and we'll look at some of the fine details here. So Nexus, again, I would say, I would say that's very, very close. You know, you look at this line here, you can see all the details. You look at the line there, you can see all the details. The Nexus might be a tad bit sharper. If you look right here, concentrate on that sort of crack right there, and then look at this part of it right here. You can see a little bit more detail right there. And again, I'm being really nitpicky here with this stuff, but you know, again, this is a comparison, so the whole point is to see which one does better, right? And so it's very, very close. But and again, I think the Nexus might be a little bit sharper, but the Galaxy probably did a little bit better with its color accuracy. So it's maybe a toss-up. Well, then we'll go over here to some of these other out of focus areas and look at the two and see what we can find. So we'll go down to the bookcase down here on these two. A little bit nicer, I would say, here on the Galaxy. I think that those out of focus areas, the color, the sharpness, is probably a little bit less noise on the Galaxy, so that looks pretty good. And then let's see, we'll go back up here up to this part of the image here. Very, very similar across devices. A little bit of muddling going on. You can kind of see it in here as compared to right here. Like, look at the edge of this stick versus the edge of this stick here. Just a little bit smoother on the Nexus than it is on the Galaxy. But we'll go back to fit on both of these, since both of these phones have blown away the iPhone. We'll just look at them again side by side. Zoom to fit, and again compare. You're talking really great cameras on both of these phones. I think that, you know, I would say the Nexus probably wins maybe on the detail and on the sort of spot metering front. And again, this is all auto everything, right? This isn't, I didn't turn on spot metering on the Galaxy, so it's not, we're not talking about just, you know, a comparison on the features of the camera. This is just an automatic general camera shooting. Nexus a little bit sharper, and and the Galaxy probably, I would say, better color accuracy, better exposure. So great camera on the Galaxy, great camera on the Nexus. If I had to pick one, man, I don't know. Ease of use award definitely goes to the iPhone. Nexus camera probably because I like Photosphere and I like how it integrates with Google Photos, and but the Galaxy camera, the features that it includes, like the Pro mode and all these other neat things you can do with it, probably wins. I would say the overall side by side camera test. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this little review here of the Galaxy S7 Edge, the iPhone 6s camera, and the Nexus 5X camera. Don't forget to check out everything else I have on YouTube.